When Howard Stern bet $1 million that Prince couldn't play 27 instruments live, he expected silence. What he got was a phone call 10 minutes later. Make it 30 instruments. October 15th, Madison Square Garden. Bring your checkbook. 20 million radio listeners heard the challenge accepted. America was about to witness the longest, most impossible concert in rock history. The shock jock had just called out the most mysterious musician in the world. In 3 weeks, 20,000 people would watch Howard Stern learn what happens when you doubt genius on live radio. September 28, 1995. The Howard Stern Show, broadcast from K-Rock Studios in Manhattan. 6:47 a.m. EST. 20 million listeners across America tuning in for their daily dose of controversy, humor, and the kind of raw honesty that had made Howard the most listened-to radio personality in the country. Howard sat behind his microphone, coffee in hand, surrounded by his crew. Robin Quivers, his co-host and reality check, Fred Norris on sound effects, Jackie Martling writing jokes on the fly. They'd been discussing Prince's new album, The Gold Experience, for the past 10 minutes. "Look, I'm not saying he's not talented," Howard said, leaning into his mic with that distinctive nasal New York accent. "The guy can sing, he can dance, he puts on a hell of a show. But this whole, I play 27 instruments thing? Come on. Marketing bullshit." Robin jumped in, always ready to challenge Howard's cynicism. "He's been saying it for years, Howard. Multiple albums, studio work. Why would he lie?" "Because it sells records," Howard shot back. "Robin, there's a difference between touching an instrument and actually playing it. Maybe he knows 3 chords on guitar, bangs on some drums, hits a few piano keys. That's not playing 27 instruments. That's dabbling." Fred triggered a sound effect, a cash register dinging. The crew laughed. "I'm serious," Howard continued, warming to his theme now. "Show me proof. Get Prince in here. I'll quiz him. I'll bring in professional musicians to test him, because I don't buy it. 27 instruments played well? That takes decades per instrument. Nobody has that kind of time." Jackie scribbled a note, passed it to Howard. Howard read it, grinned. "Jackie says maybe Prince is a vampire, had centuries to practice." "Good one, Jackie." More laughter. But Howard wasn't finished. "You know what? Let's make this interesting. Prince, if you're listening, and I know you've got people who monitor this show, I'm calling you out. Publicly. Right now. September 28, 1995, 6:50 a.m. Eastern Time." Robin leaned forward. "Howard, what are you doing?" "Making a bet. Prince, you claim you play 27 instruments. Prove it. Do one concert. One single live concert. Play all 27 instruments during that show. Not touch them, not pose with them. Actually play them. Songs. Real music. And if you do it, if you actually pull it off, I will personally donate $1 million to any charity you choose." The studio went quiet for a beat. Even for Howard, known for outrageous stunts, this was bold. "But," Howard added, his voice getting serious, "if you can't do it, you have to come on this show and admit that the 27 instruments thing is exaggerated marketing. That you're a great artist but not actually the multi-instrumentalist you claim to be. Deal?" Robin's eyes widened. "Howard, $1 million? I'm serious, Robin. This is about integrity, about truth. If Prince can back up his claims, great. $1 million goes to charity, and I'll admit I was wrong on air. But if he can't, then we're all being lied to, and somebody needs to call it out." Fred played a dramatic orchestral sting. The phones lit up immediately, listeners calling in, some supporting Howard's challenge, others defending Prince. But Howard wasn't taking calls yet. He was on a roll. 27 instruments, Prince. One concert. You choose the venue. You choose the charity. Hell, you even choose the date, but prove it, or stop claiming it. He leaned back, took a sip of coffee, looked at Robin with that self-satisfied grin that said he'd just created viral radio gold. "There, it's on the record. Ball's in his court." What Howard Stern didn't know was that Prince had been preparing for this challenge his entire life. Prince didn't learn instruments sequentially. He learned them simultaneously. Starting at age 7, when his father brought home a damaged piano, Prince approached music as one universal language with different dialects. Piano first, then guitar, bass, drums. By age 12, 8 hours daily. 2 on piano, 2 on guitar, 1 on bass, 1 on drums, 2 on whatever caught his interest: saxophone, harmonica, world percussion. It wasn't talent, it was obsession. While other kids played outside, Prince worked through jazz standards on sax, classical pieces on piano, funk bass lines, rock guitar solos, all in one afternoon. His philosophy: every instrument was just a different way to communicate the same ideas. If you understood music theory deeply enough, practiced fundamentals rigorously enough, then learning 27 instruments wasn't impossible. It was inevitable. September 28, 1995, 9:15 a.m. Central. Prince was in Studio A at Paisley Park when his assistant knocked. "Prince, you need to hear this. Howard Stern just called you out." Prince listened to the recording. His face remained expressionless, but his fingers tapped unconscious rhythm. He was calculating. "Get me Howard Stern's studio line." "You're going to call him?" "Right now. But it's a trap." "It's not a trap if I spring it myself. Besides, he said 27 instruments. I can do better." September 28th, 1995, 7:03. MEST. The Howard Stern Show had gone to commercial break. Howard was laughing with his crew about the challenge he'd just issued when his assistant producer burst into the studio. "Howard, you're not going to believe this. Prince is on line 2. Howard froze mid-laugh. "What?" "Prince. On the phone. Says he wants to talk to you. Now." Robin's eyes went wide. Fred stopped organizing his sound effects. Jackie's pen hovered over his notepad. The entire studio crew stared at Howard. "You're serious?" Howard said slowly. "Dead serious. Line 2. He's waiting." Howard looked at the phone like it might explode. This wasn't how things worked. Celebrities didn't call him during the show. Certainly not within minutes of being challenged. They sent representatives, negotiated through managers, took weeks to respond if they responded at all. But Prince wasn't most celebrities. "Put him through," Howard said, his voice suddenly stripped of its usual bravado. "And get us back on air, now." 15 seconds later, they were live. 20 million people listening. Howard pressed the flashing button on his phone console. "This is Howard." The voice that came through was unmistakable, calm, controlled, carrying that distinctive Minneapolis accent softened by years of international performance. "Howard, this is Prince." Complete silence in the studio. Howard actually looked at the phone to make sure it was real. "Prince, this is unexpected. You issued a challenge. I'm accepting." Howard's shock jock instincts kicked in. "Just like that? No negotiation? No lawyers? 27 instruments, 1 concert, $1 million to charity. That was the offer, correct?" "Yeah, but let's make it interesting." Prince's tone shifted slightly, just enough edge to show he wasn't intimidated. 30 instruments, not 27, 30. The studio crew's collective jaw dropped. Robin actually gasped into her microphone. Fred forgot to cue any sound effects. "Wait," Howard stammered. "30? I said 27. That's already—" "I know what you said. I'm raising the stakes. October 15th, Madison Square Garden. I'm performing there as part of the Gold Experience Tour. I'll change the entire set list. 3 hours minimum. 30 different instruments, all played at professional level. Every single one." Howard was genuinely speechless for maybe the 3rd time in his entire radio career. "You're serious?" "Completely. You'll have front row seats. Bring your checkbook. The $1 million goes to Minneapolis Youth Music Program. Kids who can't afford instruments. But Prince, 30 instruments in one night is impossible." "That's what you said about 27. I figured I'd remove all doubt." There was a pause. Then Prince delivered the line that would be replayed on every news program in America within hours. "Howard, you've spent 20 years telling people what they can't do. October 15th. You're going to learn what preparation looks like. See you in New York." Click. The line went dead. Prince had hung up. On Howard Stern, on live radio, after accepting an impossible challenge and making it even more impossible, Howard sat there, phone still to his ear, staring at nothing. Finally, he looked at Robin. Holy shit! Did that just happen? Robin was laughing and crying simultaneously. Howard, you just got outsterned. By Prince. The phones exploded. Every line lit up. The studio email crashed from the volume of messages. Within 10 minutes, the clip was on every newswire service in America. By noon, it was international news. Howard Stern had challenged Prince to prove he could play 27 instruments. Prince had responded by raising the number to 30 and setting a date 3 weeks away. America had a countdown clock. October 15th, Madison Square Garden. The most impossible concert ever attempted. And Howard Stern had just put $1 million on the line to watch it happen. October 14th, 1995, Madison Square Garden, backstage. 10 a.m. Questlove watched Prince's crew set up and felt his mind reject what he was seeing. 30 instruments arranged on stage like a musical museum. Stage left, 7 guitars. Center, keyboards and piano. Stage right, drums and world percussion. Scattered throughout, brass, woodwinds, and exotic pieces. Sitar, theremin, violin, cello. Yo, Questlove said to Prince. 30 instruments in one night? You insane? Prince smiled. Probably, but Howard Stern bet $1 million I couldn't. This is either going to be the greatest concert in history or the biggest disaster. Those aren't mutually exclusive, Prince replied. October 15th, 1995, 7:00 p.m. Howard Stern arrived with Robin and Gary. In his pocket, a certified check for $1 million, dated but not signed. Front row, center, directly facing that impossible array of instruments. He's really going to try this? Gary muttered. Howard said nothing. For the first time in his career, he wasn't sure if he wanted to win or lose. By 8 p.m., Madison Square Garden was packed. 20,000 people. Camera crews from MTV, VH1, Entertainment Tonight. This would be broadcast, recorded, analyzed. 8:45 p.m. Lights down. Prince walked onto stage, looked at Howard, smiled. Tonight's show is different. Howard Stern said I can't play 30 instruments. Howard, you comfortable? We're going to be here for 3 hours. Howard waved nervously. The crowd laughed. Prince picked up his purple cloud guitar. Let's go crazy, and Madison Square Garden erupted. What would you do if someone publicly bet $1 million you were lying about your abilities? Would you ignore them, get angry, or would you do what Prince did, accept the challenge and make it even harder? Drop a comment below, because this moment is about more than music. It's about how we respond when our truth gets questioned. Instrument 1, cloud guitar. Let's go crazy. Perfect execution. The crowd went wild. Instrument 2, grand piano. Purple Rain, flawless. Instrument 3, bass, Kiss. Slap technique that made session players jealous. Instrument 4, drums. When Doves Cry, precision and understanding. The pattern was clear. Prince wasn't just playing these instruments. He was demonstrating mastery, quick transitions, never rushed. Each performance proved he understood not just how to play, but how to serve the music. Instruments: 5/9, Stratocaster, Hammond organ, synthesizer, electric piano, second keyboard, jazz background, classical training, funk sensibility. Each instrument got its moment. Instrument 10, saxophone. 9:45 p.m., jazz fusion breakdown with proper breath control, embouchure, phrasing, real sax playing. Howard Stern stood up, applauding. He couldn't help himself. The camera caught it. The crowd roared. Instrument 15, trumpet. 10:30 p.m., clean, bright, serious brass technique. Howard leaned to Robin. This is impossible. He's doing it, Robin said, tears in her eyes. Instrument 20, tabla. 11:15 p.m., sitting cross-legged. 5 minutes of traditional Indian rhythmic patterns. The crowd had gone from energetic to reverent. They were witnessing history. Howard pulled out his phone, messaged backstage, "Tell Prince he can stop. I believe him." He won. Response came back. Prince, says he's going to 30. Instrument 21, violin, 11:30 p.m., 2.5 hours in. Prince picked up the violin and played a classical piece that would have been at home in Carnegie Hall. His bow control was exceptional, his intonation perfect. This wasn't rock star dabbling. This was someone who'd put in serious time with string instruments. Howard Stern was no longer sitting. He was standing at his seat, not dancing or celebrating, but watching with the kind of focused attention usually reserved for religious experiences. His cynicism had crumbled somewhere around instrument 12. By instrument 20, he'd been convinced. Now, at instrument 21, he was experiencing something else entirely. Awe. "Robin," he said, not taking his eyes off Prince, "I've made a huge mistake." "What do you mean?" "I almost prevented this. If Prince hadn't called in, if he'd ignored my challenge, this concert wouldn't be happening. I almost robbed the world of this moment because of my own skepticism." Robin put her hand on Howard's arm. "But you didn't. You challenged him, and he rose to it. That's not a mistake. That's a gift." Instrument 22, cello. The deep resonant strings filled Madison Square Garden with a melancholy beauty that contrasted sharply with the funk and rock that had dominated the evening. Prince played it with his eyes closed, lost in the music. And the 20,000 people in attendance were so quiet you could hear individual notes decay into silence. Instrument 25, harmonica, midnight, 3 hours. Prince had been performing nonstop for 3 hours, and the harmonica solo on "She's Always in My Hair" was executed with the kind of blues feeling that showed he understood the instrument's emotional range, not just its technical possibilities. The crowd was exhausted but couldn't leave. Some people were crying. Others were laughing in disbelief. All of them understood they were watching something that would be talked about for decades. Instrument 27, sitar, 12:15 a.m. Prince had matched his original claim, 27 instruments. He could have stopped here. Howard's challenge had been met. But Prince had promised 30, and Prince kept his promises. The sitar performance was a fusion piece that mixed Indian classical music with Minneapolis funk. It should have been impossible to blend those traditions. But Prince found the common ground, the universal language that existed underneath cultural boundaries. 5 minutes of music that sounded like nothing anyone in Madison Square Garden had ever heard before. Howard was openly crying now. Gary handed him tissues. Robin was crying too, so was most of the front section. This had transcended challenge or competition. This had become art on a level that broke through cynicism and touched something deeper. Instrument 28, melodica. Instrument 29, trombone. Prince was in the home stretch now. After 3 hours and 15 minutes, he showed no signs of stopping. The trombone solo was jazzy, sophisticated, showing breath control that should have been impossible after this much performance. And then he walked to the final instrument, number 30. The theremin, an electronic instrument played without touching it, controlled by hand movements through electromagnetic fields. One of the hardest instruments to play because there are no physical markers for pitch. You have to hear the notes internally and find them in empty space. Prince stood in front of the theremin. The arena went silent. This was it, the final instrument, the one that would complete the most impossible challenge in music history. He began playing "Sometimes It Snows in April." The theremin's eerie, otherworldly voice filled Madison Square Garden. Prince's hands moved through the air like a conductor, shaping sound from nothing, finding perfect pitch in electromagnetic fields, creating melody from technology and technique, and 30 years of practice. It was beautiful. It was haunting. It was the sound of someone who dedicated their entire life to understanding music in every form it could take. When the final note faded, Madison Square Garden erupted. Not the usual concert eruption. This was different. This was recognition. This was 20,000 people acknowledging they'd witnessed something that would never be repeated. Prince set down his hands, looked out at the crowd, and spoke into his microphone for the first time in 3 hours. 30 instruments. "Howard, You still got that checkbook? Howard Stern climbed onto stage, legs shaking. Prince met him center stage. Howard pulled the check from his pocket. $1 million. He signed it, held it out. I was wrong, Howard said, voice thick. Dead wrong. You're not just a musician. You're a fucking orchestra. I've never seen anything like this. Prince took the check. This goes to kids who can't afford instruments. Now they will. The crowd went wild. But Howard wasn't finished. I need to say something. On the record, I spent 20 years being a cynic. 20 years thinking nothing was real. I've mocked people, doubted them, torn them down because that's my brand. He wiped his eyes. But tonight you reminded me that magic is real, that discipline creates the impossible. I'm sorry I doubted you, and I'm grateful you proved me wrong. Prince extended his hand. Howard shook it. The handshake lasted 3 seconds, but symbolized the moment when cynicism met genius and had to admit defeat. Backstage later, just the two of them, Howard asked, "How?" Started at age 7, 8 hours a day, 30 years. No secret, just work. But why 30 when I challenged you on 27? Prince looked at him. Because you didn't believe 27. So I gave you a number you absolutely couldn't believe. I wanted to break your skepticism. Completely. Show you what dedication looks like. Howard nodded. You changed my perspective tonight. Good. That was the point. The million helps kids, but changing your mind? That helps everyone who listens to your show. The next morning, Howard's show opened with 2 hours about the concert. No jokes, just genuine admiration. I witnessed something that changed my understanding of what humans can achieve, Howard told 20 million listeners. From 1995 until Prince's death in 2016, Howard became one of Prince's most vocal defenders. When Prince died April 21, 2016, Howard dedicated 2 hours to him. He didn't have to prove anything to me, Howard said, voice breaking. But when I challenged him, he could have ignored me. Instead, he turned my skepticism into an opportunity. He took my challenge and made it bigger. Then he conquered it, not to humiliate me, but to show me what discipline looks like. That night, Prince didn't just play 30 instruments. He played them better than most musicians reach on their one instrument for 3 hours without a break, without a mistake, without anything less than excellence. I learned more about humanity from Prince in one night than in 20 years of radio. He taught me that cynicism is easy. Belief is hard, and when you meet someone who's put in 87,000 hours of practice, maybe you should shut up and watch them work. The concert recording, officially released in 2018 as the 30 Instruments Concert, won a posthumous Grammy. Music schools worldwide use it as teaching material. The Minneapolis Youth Music Program, funded by Howard's check, has provided instruments to over 50,000 children. Today, a plaque at Madison Square Garden reads, "On this stage, Prince performed on 30 instruments in one night, proving that genius combined with discipline can accomplish the impossible." Below it, Howard Stern's quote, "I challenged him because I didn't believe. He accepted because he knew. And in one night, he turned my skepticism into awe." So what about you? What have you convinced yourself is impossible? What genius have you doubted because it seemed too extraordinary to be real? If this story challenged your assumptions about what's possible, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this with someone who needs to remember that mastery is real and dedication pays off. And drop a comment. Tell us about a time when someone proved you spectacularly wrong, when your doubt met their preparation and lost. Next time someone claims they can do something extraordinary, remember October 15th, 1995. Remember Prince playing 30 instruments. Remember Howard Stern learning that sometimes the most impossible claims are just the truth spoken by people who worked harder than anyone else believed possible. Cynicism is easy. Belief takes courage. Witnessing greatness changes everything. Prince understood that. Howard learned it. Now you know it too.